The first sign that my life was imploding came in the form of a credit card statement that wasn't supposed to exist. I found it wedged between the pages of Alejandro's legal briefs while organizing his home office, a task he'd always insisted on doing himself. Until today. My name is Ava, and I'm a financial planner who somehow missed the biggest financial fraud happening right under my nose. The irony isn't lost on me. "Honey, did you need any help with that?" Alejandro called from downstairs, his voice carrying that forced casualness that I'd been picking up on lately, but couldn't quite place. "No, I'm good," I called back, my hands trembling as I stared at the statement. 4-star hotels, jewelry stores, romantic restaurants, all in the past 3 months. None of them with me. My phone buzzed. A text from Kayla. "Still on for lunch tomorrow. Miss you. Haven't seen you in forever." But tonight, in the darkness of our bedroom, I made myself a promise. They thought they were so clever, the lawyer and the backstabbing best friend, playing the long game. But they'd forgotten one crucial detail. Numbers were my language, evidence was my ammunition, and revenge would be my masterpiece. I turned away from Alejandro and smiled into my pillow. They wanted to play? Game on. "Mrs. Hayes, I have to say, this is one of the most meticulously documented cases I've seen," Sampson said, adjusting his tie as he reviewed the files I'd brought to his office. "Most people in your situation come to me with suspicions. You've brought me a roadmap." I'd chosen him specifically because he specialized in financial fraud and had never lost a case against my husband's law firm. I need to know what my options are. "First," he leaned forward, "we need to secure your assets. Today. How much time do we have?" "Based on the patterns I've found, they're planning to leave after the Henderson payout. That's in 3 weeks. Sampson whistled. "Ambitious. They're looking at what, 2 million? 2.3. I pulled out my laptop. "And that's just the obvious part. Look at this." I showed him the trail I'd uncovered. A series of small transfers to an offshore account, disguised as business expenses. Alejandro had been careful, but he'd underestimated my attention to detail. My phone buzzed. "Kayla again. Lunch was amazing yesterday. We should do it more often before you get too busy with work." Lunch had been a masterclass in acting. I'd sat there, smiling and nodding as she talked about her upcoming business trip, the same week as Alejandro's legal conference in the Cayman Islands. "Your friend's not very subtle," Sampson observed. "No, she isn't." I showed him the text. "But she's useful. Every message is another piece of evidence." "Okay," he started typing on his computer. "First, we file for an emergency freeze on all joint assets. Then," my phone rang. "Lisa, he's asking questions," she said without preamble. "He just called me about getting together for your birthday planning." "Perfect. Keep him busy. I need another hour here." "Already on it. I've invited him to help me pick out your gift. We're meeting at the mall in 20 minutes. "You're the best." Sampson raised an eyebrow as I hung up. "Reliable sister?" "The most." I turned back to the documents. "What's our next step?" "We need to document everything without tipping them off. Your neighbor, Emerson, was it? The one who saw them together? We'll need her statement." "Already got it." I pulled out a sealed envelope. "Notarized this morning." A notification popped up on my phone. A bank alert. Another transfer attempt from our joint account to the offshore one. "Look at this," I showed Sampson. "They're getting bolder." "Or desperate." He studied the notification. "This works in our favor. Each attempt strengthens our case." I spent the next hour signing papers, transferring funds to secure accounts, and laying the groundwork for what was coming. By the time I left Sampson's office, the first phase was in motion. My phone buzzed with a text from Alejandro. "Your sister is impossible to shop for you with. Miss you? Dinner tonight?" "Can't wait," I replied, adding a heart emoji. "Where should we go? That new Italian place?" The same restaurant where he'd taken Kayla last week, according to the credit card statement. "Perfect." That evening, I dressed carefully. The blue dress he loved, hair down the way he preferred. As I applied my lipstick, another text came through. this time from an unknown number. Samson. Papers filed, assets secured, green light for Phase 2. Alejandro was waiting downstairs, keys in hand. You look beautiful. Thank you. I kissed his cheek, noting the faint trace of perfume that wasn't mine. Shall we? At the restaurant, he was the perfect husband. Attentive, charming, ordering my favorite wine. I watched him perform, marveling at how I'd never noticed the calculation behind his smile. Everything okay? He asked. You seem quiet. Just thinking about work. The Henderson account is taking up all my mental space. His fork paused halfway to his mouth. The Henderson account? Any issues? I almost laughed. My best friend since college, texting me like nothing was wrong, while her name was all over these receipts. Restaurant charges for 2, always when I was at my weekly client meetings, always with Alejandro's card. You sure you don't need help? Alejandro's footsteps were coming up the stairs now. I slipped the statement into my jacket pocket. Actually, I'm feeling a bit hungry. Want to order in? No, everything's right on schedule. I smiled. The payout's actually coming a week earlier than planned. Isn't that great? I watched the panic flash in his eyes before he covered it with a smile. That's wonderful, honey. Later that night, as he slept, I checked my phone one last time. 3 new messages. From Kayla. Girls' night soon, before my business trip? From Lisa. He spent 2 hours looking at jewelry he's never going to give you. Oscar-worthy performance from me, BTW. And from Samson. Everything in place. They won't know what hit them. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes, listening to Alejandro's steady breathing beside me. 3 more weeks of this charade. 3 weeks of smiles and kisses and careful documentation. Then we'd see who was really the better player at this game. They're in there right now, Emerson whispered, peeking through her kitchen window that overlooked the coffee shop across the street. 3rd time this week. I stood beside her, watching Alejandro and Kayla sitting at their corner table, heads close together over what looked like documents. My husband had told me he was in court all morning. Want me to record them again? Emerson asked, phone already in hand. Please, and thank you for doing this. Are you kidding? After what they did to Marcus last year? She pressed record. Your husband was his divorce lawyer while sleeping with his wife. They deserve everything coming to them. That was news to me. Marcus from the hardware store? Yep. Lost everything in the settlement. Had to move back in with his parents. I filed that information away for later. Send the video to my secure email? Already done. Emerson turned from the window. Coffee? As we sat at her kitchen counter, my phone lit up with an email notification. Not my regular account. The one I'd created using the fake name I'd found in Alejandro's documents. The same one he and Kayla had been using to communicate. Holy shit, I muttered, reading the email. What is it? They're not waiting for the Henderson payout. They're moving up their timeline. I showed her the email chain I'd managed to access. They're leaving next week. But you said, nah, I know. I fed them false information about an early payout. They took the bait. I grabbed my phone and dialed Samson. I saw the emails, he said before I could speak. We're ready. Everything's in place. Move it up, all of it, today. Today? Ava, are you sure? Through the window, I watched Kayla laugh at something Alejandro said. Absolutely sure. After hanging up, I texted Lisa. It's happening today. You ready? Her response was immediate. Born ready, heading to her house now. Emerson touched my arm. What can I do? Keep recording. I need to make a call. I stepped onto her back porch and dialed a number I'd memorized weeks ago. It rang twice. Mrs. Rodriguez? This is Ava Hayes. About that investment opportunity we discussed. I'm in. Mrs. Rodriguez, Marcus's mother, had been waiting for this call. Within minutes, everything was arranged. Back inside, Emerson was still watching the coffee shop. They're leaving. I checked my watch. Right on schedule. Thank you for everything, I told her. I need to go. Wait. She grabbed my arm. There's something else you should know. Last week, when they were here, I overheard them talking about other accounts, multiple ones. Show me. She pulled up another video on her phone. The audio was faint, but clear enough. Alejandro and Kayla discussing account numbers, dates, amounts, all carefully documented by my vigilant neighbor. Send it to Samson, I said, already heading for the door. And Emerson, when this is over, I'm buying you a better camera. I drove to my office, where my team had been prepped for weeks. They knew what to do without me having to say a word. As I walked in, Sarah from accounting handed me a stack of papers. All the transfers are flagged, she said. Every single one. Perfect. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. Let's begin. The next few hours were a blur of phone calls, emails, and document signing. By 3 o'clock, everything was in position. My phone buzzed. Lisa. In position at Kayla's. You won't believe what I found. Another buzz. Samson. Court order secured. Standing by. And then, right on cue, Alejandro. Working late tonight, honey. Big case. I smiled at my phone. No problem. I'll be working late too. The Henderson account needs attention. He appeared in the doorway, handsome as ever in his casual weekend wear. I have that dinner meeting tonight, remember? The Morrison case? Right, of course. I smiled, wondering if the Morrison case had perfect blonde hair and wore the perfume I'd gifted Kayla last Christmas. No problem. I'll heat up some leftovers. His response came quickly. Don't work too hard. Love you. I put my phone down and looked at the time. In about an hour, Alejandro would discover that his access to our accounts had been revoked. Shortly after that, he'd learn about the court order freezing all assets, including the ones he thought I didn't know about. And Kayla? By now, Lisa would have gathered enough evidence from her house to destroy any chance of them claiming innocence. My phone rang again. This time, it was Marcus. Mom told me what's happening, he said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. No, you don't understand. After what they did, just thank you. I ended the call and stood up, walking to my office window. Across the street, I could see Alejandro's law firm. Any minute now, he'd be getting a very interesting package of documents. My phone buzzed one final time. Samson. It's done. Ready when you are. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door. Time to go watch their world burn. The first call came exactly 17 minutes after the documents were delivered. I watched my phone vibrate across my desk, Alejandro's face lighting up the screen. I let it ring. He's trying to access the Henderson account, Sarah reported from her computer. System's denying him. My phone buzzed again. Kayla this time. Ava, please call me. It's urgent. The office door burst open. Lisa strode in, holding up a USB drive like a trophy. You're not going to believe what I found at Kayla's place. Tell me. Not just your accounts. She plugged the drive into my computer. They've done this before, 3 times. Different cities, different victims, always the same pattern. Photos filled my screen, documents, bank statements, letters. A systematic trail of destruction across state lines. My phone kept buzzing. Alejandro, Kayla, Alejandro again. Ms. Hayes? My assistant poked her head in. Mr. Hayes is in the lobby. He's quite insistent. I straightened my jacket. Perfect timing. Lisa, send everything to Samson. Sarah, start the trace on those other accounts. The elevator ride down felt longer than usual. When the doors opened, I saw him pacing the lobby, running his hands through his hair. A tell I'd learned meant he was panicking. Ava! He rushed toward me. There's been a mistake. The accounts are frozen? I smiled. No mistake. He stopped short, his face changing as realization hit. How long have you known? Long enough. I nodded to security. Mr. Hayes was just leaving. Ava, please. Let me explain. Explain what? The offshore accounts? The plans with Kayla? Or should we talk about Marcus first? He paled. Marcus? And the others before him. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? His phone chimed. He checked it, cursed, then looked at me with desperate eyes. Whatever you think you know? I know everything. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. Every account, every meeting, every lie. And in about 10 minutes, so will the Bar Association. As if on cue, his phone exploded with notifications. I watched his face as he read them, saw the moment he realized it was all falling apart. "You can't do this," he whispered. "I already have." He grabbed my arm. "You'll destroy everything!" Security moved forward, but I held up my hand. "No, Alejandro. You did that yourself. Now, would you like to leave on your own, or should these gentlemen help you?" He let go, straightened his tie, tried to recover his dignity. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is." "Oh, and Alejandro," I called as he turned to leave. "Say hi to Kayla for me. She might want to check her own accounts." The moment he was gone, my phone rang. "Samson, it's done," he said. "The Bar Association has everything. So does the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit." "And Kayla?" "Her firm just received an interesting package about employee fraud. I'd say her partnership track is effectively over." I ended the call and turned to Lisa, who'd appeared beside me. "Ready for phase 2? She grinned. "Marcus and his parents are waiting at Samson's office, along with some other interested parties." My phone buzzed again. A text from Emerson. "They're at the coffee shop, both of them, looking pretty frantic." "Good," I checked my watch. "Time to pay them a visit." "Want backup?" Lisa asked. "No, this part I need to do alone." The coffee shop was 3 blocks away. I walked slowly, letting them stew in their panic. Through the window, I could see them huddled in their usual corner, phones out, faces pale. Later that night, I sat in our kitchen, laptop open, methodically going through our joint accounts. 12 years of marriage, and I trusted him to handle our personal finances while I managed everyone else's money. Another bitter irony. My phone rang. It was Lisa, my sister. "Hey, what's up?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "Ava, are you okay? You sound weird." I hesitated. Lisa had never liked Alejandro. "Can you come over?" The bell chimed as I pushed open the door. They both looked up, and for a moment, nobody moved. "Ava," Kayla started, standing. "We can explain—" "Sit down." My voice was ice. She sat. I pulled up a chair, noting how they instinctively leaned away from me. "So let's talk about Marcus." "Who?" Kayla's confusion was almost convincing. "Don't." I placed my phone on the table, started playing a recording. Their voices filled the space between us, discussing their previous schemes, their plans, their victims. "Where did you get that?" Alejandro demanded. "Does it matter? I have everything. The accounts in Arizona, the couple in Oregon, all of it." Kayla started to cry. Alejandro reached for my hand. I pulled back. "Please," he said. "We can fix this." "No, we can't." I stood up. "But don't worry. I'm sure you'll have plenty of time to think about it. The FBI tends to be thorough with their investigations." As I walked out, I heard Kayla call my name. I didn't look back. My phone buzzed with a message from Samson. "Marcus and the others are ready. Time to finish this." I smiled, hailed a cab, and headed toward the next phase of their destruction. Sometimes karma needed a little help, and I was more than happy to assist. Samson's conference room was packed. Marcus sat at one end of the long table, his parents beside him. Next to them were 2 couples I'd never met in person, the victims from Arizona and Oregon. Their faces showed the same mix of anger and betrayal I saw in my mirror every morning. "They're running," Lisa announced, bursting into the room. "Emerson just saw them leaving the coffee shop with suitcases, headed to the airport." I smiled. "Right on schedule. Should we stop them?" Marcus asked, half rising from his chair. "No need." I nodded to Samson, who pulled up a live feed on the conference room screen. Airport security cameras showed Alejandro and Kayla rushing through the terminal. "Their passports have been flagged," Samson explained. "They're not going anywhere." We watched as they approached the international departures counter. Even without audio, we could see the moment everything fell apart. The confused looks, the frantic phone calls, the arrival of airport security. "Is that—" The woman from Oregon leaned forward. Are they being arrested? Not yet. I checked my watch. That comes next. Right on cue, 2 FBI agents appeared on screen. We watched in silence as Alejandro and Kayla were led away, their luggage abandoned at the counter. Holy shit, Marcus whispered. You actually did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us. Your documentation helped build the case. The woman from Arizona, Janet, wiped tears from her eyes. When you contacted us, I couldn't believe it was happening again, that they were still doing this. They were good at covering their tracks, her husband added, but not good enough. My phone buzzed, a call from an unknown number. Alejandro, probably using his one phone call. I declined it. What happens now? Marcus asked. Samson stood up, straightening his tie. Now we move forward with the civil suits. Ms. Hayes has already agreed to testify about their financial schemes. With the evidence we've gathered, plus their attempted flight, we have an extremely strong case. And the criminal charges? Marcus's father leaned forward. FBI's handling those. Wire fraud across state lines, conspiracy, multiple counts of financial fraud. They're looking at serious time. Another buzz from my phone. Kayla this time, using her call to send a text. Please, Ava, don't do this. We can work something out. I showed the message to Lisa, who snorted. The audacity. I have something you all need to see, I said, pulling out my laptop. Lisa found this at Kayla's house. It's their playbook. Detailed notes on how they selected their targets, how they manipulated accounts, everything. The room fell silent as I played the video files. Secret recordings Kayla had kept as insurance against Alejandro. Hours of them planning their schemes, laughing about their victims, counting their stolen money. Turn it off, Janet whispered. I can't watch anymore. I closed the laptop. I'm sorry, I know this is difficult, but we needed you to see who they really are. What about our money? The Oregon husband, David, asked quietly. 20 minutes later, we sat at my kitchen island. The evidence spread out before us. That lying, cheating bastard, Lisa whispered, scanning the documents. And Kayla? You're Kayla? I'll kill them both. No, I said, surprising myself with how calm I felt. I have a better idea. Ava. Did you know, I said, pulling up our investment portfolio, that Alejandro gave me power of attorney over all our accounts last year? He said it was easier since I'm the financial expert. Already traced, Samson replied. Once the FBI finishes their investigation, we can begin recovery proceedings. Ms. Hayes has already offered to help navigate the financial aspects. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emerson. Their families are at your house, looking pretty angry. Let them be angry, I texted back. The security cameras will catch everything. The conference room door opened, and an FBI agent stepped in. We're ready for your statements now. Who'd like to go first? One by one, they left to tell their stories. I stayed behind with Lisa, watching the airport footage loop on the screen. You okay? She asked softly. Better than okay. I turned to her. But there's one more thing we need to do. What's that? I pulled up an email on my phone, the one I'd been drafting all morning. Send this to every law firm and financial institution in the state. They need to know who they're really dealing with. Lisa read it over my shoulder, whistling low. This will destroy their careers. Permanently. Good. My phone lit up with another message, a video from the security company. Alejandro's parents were at my front door, shouting and demanding answers. I forwarded it directly to Samson. More evidence, I said, standing up. Ready to give your statement? Born ready. Lisa linked her arm through mine. But first, want to grab coffee? The shop across from your house has a great view of the show. I thought about it. About sitting there, watching their families realize the truth, just like I had weeks ago. But that wasn't who I wanted to be. No, I said finally. Let's give our statements and go home. They're not worth any more of our time. We walked out of the conference room, leaving the airport footage playing behind us. On screen, Alejandro and Kayla were led away in handcuffs, their perfect escape plan in ruins. Sometimes karma needed a push, and sometimes that push came with handcuffs and an FBI escort. The preliminary hearing was set for a crisp Monday morning. I sat in Sampson's office, watching him review the final documents while Lisa paced behind me. "They're offering a deal," Sampson said, sliding a paper across his desk. "Full restitution to all victims, written confessions, in exchange for reduced charges." "They're desperate," Lisa scoffed. "They know they're screwed." My phone lit up with a message from Marcus. "Just got the call about the deal. What should we do?" Before I could respond, Sampson's assistant burst in. "Mr. Hayes is here. Says he needs to speak with Ms. Hayes immediately." "No," Lisa started, but I held up my hand. "Let him in." Alejandro looked different after a week in custody. Rumpled suit, unshaven face, dark circles under his eyes. The swagger was gone. "5 minutes," he said, glancing nervously at Sampson. "Alone." "Absolutely not," Lisa snapped. "It's okay," I said, standing. "We'll use the conference room, with the cameras." Once inside, Alejandro slumped into a chair. "You have to help me." "I don't have to do anything." "Oh, Ava, please. They're talking about serious time, years. And Kayla, she's turning on me." I laughed. "Of course she is. That's what happens when you build a relationship on lies." "It wasn't all lies." He reached for my hand across the table. I pulled back. "What we had was a fraud." I pushed the deal papers toward him. "Like everything else about you. I'll sign whatever you want. Give back everything. Just help me make this go away." "Make it go away?" I leaned forward. "Like you did with Marcus, or Janet and David?" He flinched. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You and Kayla had a system. Find successful, trusting people. Infiltrate their lives. Steal everything. Move on." I stood up. "But you got sloppy. Got too confident." "What do you want?" His voice cracked. "Name your price." "I want you to look at this." I pulled out my phone, showed him the video Lisa had found, him and Kayla laughing about their victims, planning their next moves. "Where did you get that?" "Your precious Kayla kept receipts. Lots of them. Insurance, she called it." The color drained from his face. "She recorded everything?" "Everything." I put my phone away. "The FBI has it all now. So does the Bar Association. And tomorrow, the court will have it too." Lisa's eyes widened. "Oh my God. They've been planning this for months. Look at these transfers. Small enough to fly under the radar, but they add up. They're planning to leave." I showed her the pattern I'd discovered. "Next month, probably, after the Henderson account pays out." "How can you be so calm?" I wasn't calm. I was nuclear. But rage could wait. "Because I'm good at my job, Lisa. Really good. And they have no idea that I know." He buried his face in his hands. "I'll lose everything. Now you know how it feels." A knock at the door. Sampson. "Time's up." "Sign the deal," I said, walking to the door. "It's the best you're going to get." "Wait!" He grabbed the papers. "What about Kayla? Will she sign too?" "She already did, an hour ago." I smiled at his shocked expression. "Turns out she's better at saving herself than saving you." Back in Sampson's office, Lisa was waiting with news. "Kayla's lawyer just called. She's giving them everything. Names, dates, account numbers." "Good." I checked my watch. "The others will be here soon for the final briefing." "Are you sure you want to do this?" Sampson asked. "The deal would be cleaner, faster." "They don't deserve clean or fast." I looked out his window at the courthouse across the street. "They deserve to face every person they hurt." My phone buzzed. Emerson. "Just saw Kayla's parents going into the courthouse. They look devastated." Another message followed quickly, from Janet. "We're here, in the lobby, ready when you are." I gathered my things, straightened my jacket. "Let's go. Everyone's waiting." The courthouse lobby was packed. Marcus and his parents stood with Janet and David. The Oregon couple huddled with their lawyer. And there, by the entrance, stood Kayla's parents, looking lost and broken. "Mrs. Parker," I said, approaching Kayla's mother. "I'm sorry you're learning about your daughter this way." She grabbed my arm. "Is it true? All of it?" "Yes. And there's more. Much more." She started to cry. Her husband led her away, but not before whispering, "Thank you for stopping them." Samson appeared at my side. "They're ready for us." As we walked toward the courtroom, I saw Alejandro being led in through a side door, hands cuffed. Our eyes met briefly. He looked away first. Lisa squeezed my hand. "Ready?" I thought about the past few weeks, the discoveries, the pain, the careful planning. Thought about Marcus losing everything, Janet's tears, David's quiet anger. Thought about every person these two had hurt in their quest for easy money. "Ready," I said, pushing open the courtroom doors. "Let's finish this." Behind me, I heard Alejandro's voice one last time. "Ava, please." But I kept walking. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth, it's making sure everyone hears it. The courtroom fell silent as the video played on the large screen. Kayla's voice filled the room. "It's so easy. They trust us completely. Alejandro handles the legal side. I play the friend, and they never see it coming." I watched the judge's face darken as the evidence unfolded. Beside me, Janet gripped her husband's hand. Behind us, Marcus's parents whispered furiously. "Turn it off!" Kayla shouted from her seat. "That was private." "Private like the lives you destroyed?" Marcus stood up, but his father pulled him back down. The judge banged her gavel. "Order, Miss Clark. One more outburst and you'll be removed." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Kayla. "Found the perfect birthday gift for you. Can't wait to give it to you next week." Lisa read the text over my shoulder and swore. "The nerve of that bye." "Let her play her game," I interrupted, already formulating a plan. "I'll play mine." "What are you going to do?" I closed my laptop and looked at my sister. "First, I'm having lunch with my best friend tomorrow. Then I'm going to visit a lawyer, not one from Alejandro's firm. After that?" I managed a smile that felt more like baring teeth. "After that, I'm going to make sure they regret ever thinking they could outsmart me." "Need backup?" "Always." After Lisa left, I went upstairs and lay down next to my sleeping husband. He'd come home late, smelling of his business dinner. Tomorrow, he'd wake up to his loving, unsuspecting wife. He'd kiss me goodbye, go to work, and continue plotting with my best friend to steal my money and break my heart. Alejandro sat separately from Kayla, his attorney looking increasingly defeated as each piece of evidence was presented. The offshore accounts, the falsified documents, the trail of broken lives across 3 states. Samson stood. "Your Honor, we'd like to call our first witness." I walked to the stand, feeling their eyes on me. Kayla wouldn't look at me, but Alejandro stared, silently pleading. "Ms. Hayes," Samson began, "when did you first suspect something was wrong?" "Objection!" Alejandro's lawyer jumped up. "Relevance?" "Overruled." The judge leaned forward. "Continue." I described finding the credit card statement, uncovering the patterns, discovering their previous victims. With each detail, I watched their facades crumble further. "And these accounts?" Samson held up bank statements. "Can you explain their significance?" "Those are the transfer records showing how they moved money between victims. They used my financial expertise without my knowledge, copying my investment strategies to make their fraud look legitimate." "You lying bitch!" Kayla shot up, face contorted. "You knew! You had to know!" "Remove her," the judge ordered. As bailiffs led Kayla out, she screamed accusations until the doors closed behind her. Alejandro's attorney stood. "Your Honor, in light of this evidence, we'd like to change our plea." The courtroom erupted. Marcus pumped his fist. Janet burst into tears. Lisa squeezed my shoulder from her seat behind me. "Quiet!" the judge commanded. "Mr. Hayes, you wish to change your plea to guilty?" Alejandro nodded, defeated. "Yes, Your Honor." What followed was a blur of legal proceedings, victim impact statements, and final testimonies. Janet described losing her life savings. David talked about his children's college funds disappearing. Marcus faced Alejandro directly, describing how the betrayal had nearly destroyed his family. Finally, the judge spoke. Never in my 20 years on the bench have I seen such calculated cruelty, such deliberate destruction of lives and trust. She shuffled her papers, looked directly at Alejandro. Mr. Hayes, as an officer of the court, your actions are particularly egregious. Ms. Clark, though not present, shares equal culpability. The sentence came down like thunder. 15 years for each of them. No possibility of early release. Full restitution to all victims. Permanent disbarment for Alejandro. This court is adjourned. As they led Alejandro away, he called out, "Ava, please!" I turned to him one last time. "Goodbye, Alejandro." Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Samson handled the press, while Lisa shepherded me through the crowd. But before we could leave, Kayla's mother approached. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed, hugging me tightly. "We had no idea." "None of us did," I said gently. "That's how they operated." Marcus caught up with us at the bottom of the steps. "Thank you for everything. We're having dinner tonight. All of us victims, I mean. Would you join us?" I looked at the group, Janet and David, the Oregon couple, Marcus and his parents. People brought together by tragedy, united in justice. "I'd like that." My phone buzzed. Emerson. "Just saw the news. Congratulations. Wine at my place later?" Before I could reply, another message came through, from an unknown number. A text from Kayla's prison phone. "You'll regret this. We were friends." Lisa read it over my shoulder. "Want me to handle it?" "No need." I blocked the number. Some friendships aren't worth keeping. As we walked to our cars, Janet fell into step beside me. "What will you do now?" "I'm starting a foundation," I said, "to help people identify and recover from financial fraud, using my experience to prevent others from going through this." "Count me in," Marcus called from behind us. "Whatever you need." The others joined in, offering support, resources, connections. In that moment, standing in the fading sunlight with these survivors, I felt something shift inside me. "First," I said, "let's have dinner, share our stories. Then tomorrow, we start helping others write better endings to theirs." Lisa linked her arm through mine as we walked away from the courthouse. Behind us, justice had been served. Ahead of us lay purpose, healing, and the chance to turn pain into protection for others. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just winning, it's using that victory to make sure no one else loses. And that's how financial predators operate, I concluded, facing the packed auditorium. They don't look like criminals. They look like your friends, your spouse, your trusted advisors. Hands shot up across the room. A woman in the front row stood without waiting to be called on. "How do you do this? Face people after everything that happened?" "Because every person in this room represents someone who won't become a victim." I gestured to Marcus, standing by the side door. "And because I'm not alone." After the presentation, Marcus helped me pack up, while Lisa handled the line of people waiting to speak with me. "Third presentation this week," he said, coiling cables. "The foundation's really taking off." "Speaking of which," I pulled out my tablet. Janet called. 2 more cases just came in, similar pattern to ours. "Want me to handle the initial interviews?" "Please." "And David's team identified some suspicious transfers in Oregon. Could you—" My phone buzzed. A call from Samson. "Hold that thought." "Just got word," Samson said without preamble. "Kayla's trying to appeal her sentence." "Let me guess. Claiming she was manipulated by Alejandro?" "Exactly. But here's the thing. The prison recordings show her trying to set up new schemes from inside. Already sent the evidence to the DA. I ended the call, shared the update with Marcus. "Unbelievable," he muttered. "Some people never learn." "No, but others do." I nodded toward the auditorium doors, where Emerson was leading in another group for the evening session. "That's why we're here." The evening group was different, all victims of financial fraud, gathering for mutual support and education. Janet and David were already there, setting up refreshments. "Before we start," Janet announced, I have news. The recovery team found another account. We've secured the funds for redistribution to all victims. Applause filled the room. David hugged his wife, tears in his eyes. Their children would have their college funds back. Lisa slipped in beside me. Ready to tell them about the new initiative? I stepped to the front of the room. We're launching a nationwide network. Financial advisors, legal experts, fraud investigators, all working together to identify and stop these crimes before they destroy more lives. Like a fraud prevention task force? Someone asked. Better. I pulled up the presentation. We're creating a system that flags suspicious patterns across multiple institutions. The same patterns that Alejandro and Kayla used to hurt people will now help us protect others. The doors opened and Kayla's parents walked in. The room fell silent. Please, her mother said softly. We want to help. We need to help. I crossed the room, took her hands in mine. You already are. Your testimony helped strengthen the case against similar crimes in 2 other states. The meeting continued. Stories shared, strategies discussed, healing happening in real time. I watched Marcus comforting a newcomer, Lisa coordinating with our legal team, Janet and David sharing their recovery journey. My phone buzzed. A text from the prison chaplain. Alejandro asked to see you. Your decision. No, I typed back. Some chapters need to stay closed. After the meeting, we gathered at Emerson's house, the core team that had grown from victims to advocates. Over wine and takeout, we planned our next moves. The foundation's going national, Lisa announced, pulling up projections. 5 new offices opening next month. Make it 6, Marcus added. Just got approval for the Seattle branch. My phone lit up with a news alert. Financial Fraud Prevention Act passes Senate. The legislation we'd helped draft, inspired by our case, was becoming law. To justice, Janet raised her glass. To prevention, David added. To survival, Marcus said. I looked around at these faces, no longer victims, but warriors. Each carrying scars, each choosing to fight back. My phone buzzed again. Another case, another chance to help. To turning pain into purpose, I said, raising my glass, and to making sure what happened to us never happens to anyone else. Emerson brought out dessert, and the conversation shifted to tomorrow's presentations, next week's cases, next month's initiatives. No one mentioned Alejandro or Kayla anymore. They were just cautionary tales now, lessons learned the hard way. Outside, the city lights twinkled. Somewhere in those lights, someone was planning their next fraud, and somewhere else, someone was falling for it. But now there was a network waiting to catch them both, the predator and the prey. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from a stranger. Saw your presentation today. You saved my life. I was about to trust the wrong person. Thank you. I showed the message to the others, watching their faces light up. This was why we did it. This was how we won. Not just by surviving our story, but by helping others write better ones. Sometimes the best endings aren't about closure. They're about opening new doors for others.